So there was this documentary about this guy, you might have seen it, who is kind of using science and technology and supplements in order to try and live, well, not forever exactly, but, you know, for a couple of 100 years. And he is sort of fine-tuning his body and mind on a 24/7 basis. Literally everything he does is aimed at longevity. And he's got the resources and the money to devote his entire life to this. And of course, this is the extreme end of trying to achieve some kind of transcendence from our kind of chronically problematic human bodies, and also to try and defy death. Now, anyone who's seen Final Destination or any of those films will know that you cannot escape death or cheat it, because he will come for you. But that's another question. So we're all now obsessed with this idea of trying to, in a way, get out of our own bodies, get away from the pain, the disease, the suffering, the failure, and achieve some, and better ourselves. So nothing wrong with that idea, of course. But I was thinking about how this manifests in different ways. Some of us just want to kind of get through life, just survive it. And I think, as I've said before many times, I think that that is actually the sufficient ambition of every human to survive the real world as it is. Not to indulge ourselves with ideas of what the world could be or should be, not to have fantasies and beliefs about afterlives and somehow that we can beat the system, because we can't. So for me, it's enough of a goal just to survive. But there you go, that's just me. Most people want much more than that, and that's up to them. But I was thinking about why it is that something like Scientology tends to appeal to a certain type of person, particularly, as is commonly known, celebrities. And they have famously their celebrity centre in Los Angeles, which looks like a very beautiful kind of white elephant there, and who knows what goes on inside it, but I've heard it's pretty luxurious. And there's people like Tom Cruise, Elizabeth Moss, John Travolta, Lisa Marie Presley, and Juliette Lewis, and others. And they're attracted to Scientology particularly, which claims it's a religion, but of course it's not really a religion. I suppose that at the other end of the scale, if we talk about a sort of spectrum of belief systems which are there to either improve us or, in the case of many religions, save us. At the other end of the spectrum from Scientology would just be, I don't know, the church that would sort of welcome the poor, the downtrodden, those in pain, those who are suffering, who would be welcomed in, and you would pray for redemption. You would pray for peace in your life. You would pray to be saved. And you can understand that people who are in a hopeless situation, or people who are desperate, you know, would go in and, you know, pray to an uncertain God for deliverance from the ruination of their lives. So that's kind of at one end. Now, Scientology is something very different indeed. If you look at the profiles of those people, the obvious thing is that they, in many ways, they've actualized themselves in terms of Maslow's pyramid. where he says that life, at the bottom end, just survival. We need food and water and shelter, and then we want to find some meaning, and it comes sort of into a pyramid, and right at the top of the pyramid is kind of self-actualization, which I suppose is to do with kind of fulfilling one's entire potential in some more meaningful way. But actually there's one even beyond that that's not really in the pyramid, I think, which is transcendence. The idea of actually kind of almost leaving your body, becoming a transcendent being. I mean, in Buddhism, I suppose you would call it, attaining a kind of Zen state. Now, back to Scientology. So those people who are attracted often to Scientology are people who've already got pretty much everything that you and I would probably want. They have money, they have wealth, they have power. They're often extremely kind of attractive people in many respects, the Tom Cruises, Elizabeth Moss of this world. So in a way, they've achieved as much, and they have as much as it is possible to have, really, in this short life. And yet, it seems that they want to fine-tune themselves further. And this is where Scientology comes in, because Scientology has ideas of taking this beautiful person who's got money. In exchange for a large fee, they will help you rid yourself of things they call engrams, which are kind of like traumatic cellular damage. And then further down the line, they will help you become what they call an operating thetan. A thetan, which is like a spiritual being, really. Certainly that is transcendent from the sort of the goriness of just human reality. So it seems to me that that there must be a kind of innate desire in man and women, of course, to seek out some form of transcendence. It's not enough to be human. In effect. And this reminds me of paradise syndrome, which is something that happens to people who have kind of reached the top of the pyramid and kind of found out that it hasn't really solved many of the issues that they thought it might solve, and they're kind of grasping around for something else that can complete them or deliver them from their humanness. If somehow you have put yourself in a position where you can survive better, then I think that's great. But in terms of having goals and ambitions where you think there will be some wonderful revelation, some sort of transcendental moment at the end, I think you're going to be very disappointed. And I mean, we know from reading biographies of people who appear to have it all that sometimes they find that there's nothing there but void, a sense of total and utter emptiness. So one has to be careful about what one wants. I mean, this obsession with the pursuit of perfection, increasingly trying to better oneself, but actually wanting to really face off mortality and transcend our filthy flesh and bone reality, has existed probably as long as humankind have existed. And I think that also something like Scientology appeals to people who kind of want to hold on to their ego to some extent. Because if you look at, let's say, if you look at Buddhism, which is also a religion which promises a kind of transcendence through the ability to become one, Zen with everything. and to kind of relinquish everything that's material. Part of that process requires the entire loss of the ego. Now, you wouldn't say, I don't think anybody would say that most of those celebrities who haunt the Celebrity Centre in Los Angeles have got a lack of ego. And I think also in Christianity, that it does require a certain humility, a certain surrender, which I don't think these celebrities really want to get into. That's what I think, anyway. Rather like the moral of crime and punishment. You don't get away with anything in this life. And it's not because of some weird spiritual karma thing that's going on. There's nothing strange in the cosmos. It's just that if you try and beat the system through things like deception, lying, bullying, sort of Machiavellian techniques, manipulation, then generally bad things happen to you in the end, because people get wise to it. You end up isolated. You end up being caught out by your deceptions, and it all goes a bit wrong. Anyway, these are just my thoughts today on this idea of not really being satisfied with what we have, who we are, flesh and blood, human creatures, flung upon this earth, and I don't think really it's worth wasting a huge amount of time in trying to transcend that. I think that's a myth.